The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched for miles in every direction. Floating platforms held representatives from 47 different species. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few were made of pure energy that flickered like flames. The ceiling showed the stars themselves, a reminder of the vast empire these beings controlled together. Ambassador Linda Hayes stood on the small human platform. It was positioned at the far edge of the hall, barely visible from the central stage. This had always bothered her, but she had learned to accept it. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had only been members of the Council for 300 years. In a civilization that measured time in thousands of years, humanity was still considered young and unimportant. Today, the Vorath were speaking. Their representative, Councillor Zethar, was a tall creature with gray skin and 4 arms. His voice echoed through the chamber as translator devices turned his words into 100 different languages. The Vorath Dominion requires new territory for expansion, he said. Our population grows. Our needs increase. We have studied the matter carefully, and we believe the outer human colonies would serve our purposes well. Linda felt her blood turn cold. She gripped the railing of her platform and listened as Zethar continued. The humans have 17 colony worlds in the outer reach. They are lightly populated. The humans do not truly need them. We propose that these worlds be transferred to Vorath control. The human settlers will be relocated to Earth or to their inner colonies. Murmurs spread through the Great Hall. Linda looked around desperately, hoping to see shock or outrage on the faces of other representatives. Instead, she saw only bored acceptance. A few species even nodded in agreement. She activated her speaking beacon. A small light appeared on her platform, signaling that she wished to address the council. The chair recognizes the human representative, said the ancient keeper of the council, a being so old that no one remembered what species he had once been. Thank you, Linda said. Her voice was steady, though her hands were shaking. I must protest this proposal in the strongest possible terms. Those colonies are home to 50 million human beings. They built those worlds from nothing. They transformed dead rocks into living gardens. You cannot simply take their homes away. Zethar made a sound that his translator rendered as polite laughter. The humans are skilled workers. We acknowledge this. They will be compensated for their labor, but the needs of the Vorath are greater than the needs of 50 million humans. Surely the representative understands. I understand perfectly, Linda replied. I understand that you see us as servants, whose property can be seized whenever it suits you. The hall grew quiet. Such direct speech was rare in council proceedings. The keeper spoke again. The council will vote on the Vorath proposal. All in favor? Lights appeared across the chamber. Green for yes. Linda watched in horror as platform after platform lit up green. The Zelthrix voted yes. The Fen Collective voted yes. The Morath Empire voted yes. Even the Corvani, who had always been friendly to humans, voted yes. All opposed? A single red light glowed in the darkness. The human platform. Linda's vote. The measure passes, the keeper announced. The human outer colonies will be transferred to Vorath control within 1 standard year. This council session is concluded. Linda stood frozen as the other representatives began to leave. 300 years. That was how long humanity had served the council. 300 years of peacekeeping missions, 300 years of humanitarian aid, 300 years of building, fixing, healing, and helping. And this was how they were repaid. She activated her personal communicator. Get me Admiral Jack Morrison, she said. Priority 1. Emergency channel. Admiral Morrison was aboard the USS Horizon, the flagship of Earth's contribution to the galactic fleet. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 40 years serving the Council, fighting their wars, protecting their shipping lanes, rescuing their citizens from disasters. Ambassador, he said, when her face appeared on his screen. What happened? They voted to give our outer colonies to the Vorath, Linda said. Every single species voted against us. Not one ally. Not one friend. We stood alone. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked, "What do you want to do?" Linda had been asking herself the same question since the vote. Now, standing alone in the empty council chamber, she finally had her answer. "Pull everyone out," she said. "Every ship, every soldier, every doctor, every engineer. Bring them all home. That will leave 18 conflict zones without peacekeepers," Morrison warned. "The humanitarian stations serve billions of people. The engineering corps is stabilizing 3 dying suns. If we leave, they will finally understand what we do for them," Linda interrupted. "For 300 years, we have given everything and asked for nothing. We kept the peace. We fed the hungry. We healed the sick. We built their infrastructure and maintained their systems. And today, they voted to steal our homes without a second thought. They see us as servants. Jack. Useful, but expendable. It is time to show them how wrong they are." Admiral Morrison nodded slowly. "I will give the orders." Within hours, the Great Withdrawal began. Human ships broke away from joint patrols and set course for Earth. Human doctors packed their medical supplies and said goodbye to patients they had treated for years. Human engineers shut down projects they had worked on for decades. Human diplomats closed their offices and burned their files. The Council sent messages demanding explanations. They were ignored. The Council sent ships to intercept human vessels. The ships were warned to keep their distance. No shots were fired, but the message was clear. General Chris Porter coordinated the withdrawal of peacekeeping forces. His soldiers had been keeping the Corvani and Zelthrix from killing each other for 50 years. Now they simply walked away, leaving the 2 ancient enemies staring at each other across empty borders. Dr. Amy Walsh was the last to leave the humanitarian station on Fen Prime. She had fed 3 billion people through that station. Now, it would go dark. She stood in the doorway for a long time, looking back at the world she was abandoning. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Then she boarded her ship and left. Back on Earth, Linda Hayes addressed the human population. Her speech was broadcast to every city, every colony, every ship. "Today we learned a painful truth," she said. "The galaxy does not respect us. They see our kindness as weakness. They see our service as an obligation we owe them. They are wrong. We owe them nothing. From this day forward, humanity stands alone. We will protect our own. We will build our own future. And the galaxy will learn exactly what they lost when they chose to betray us." The stars had never seemed so cold. But for the first time in 300 years, humanity was truly free. 6 months had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. At first, the other species had laughed. They called it a tantrum. They said the humans would come crawling back within weeks, begging for forgiveness. The humans were soft, they said. The humans needed the Council more than the Council needed them. They were wrong. On the border world of Kashith, the first shots were fired between Corvani and Zelthrix soldiers. For 50 years, human peacekeepers had stood between these ancient enemies. They had negotiated treaties, resolved disputes, and prevented small arguments from becoming big wars. Now there was no one to stop the fighting. Commander Velkar of the Corvani watched his fleet burn in the darkness of space. The Zelthrix had attacked without warning. His ships were old and poorly maintained. The human engineers who used to keep them running were gone. "Where are our reinforcements?" he screamed at his communications officer. "The Council says they are still debating the matter," came the reply. "They cannot agree on which side to support." Velkar slammed his fist against his command chair. The humans had never debated. When there was trouble, they simply showed up and fixed it. They asked questions later. Now there was no one coming to help. The war spread quickly. Within 3 months, 7 worlds were burning. Millions died. Refugees fled in every direction, but there was nowhere safe to go. On the agricultural world of Keth Prime, Governor Lisa Chen watched the food riots from her office window. She was one of the few humans who had stayed behind when Earth withdrew. Her family had lived on Keth Prime for 4 generations. She could not abandon it, but she could not save it either. The grain shipments had stopped. For decades, human logistics experts had coordinated the flow of food across 100 worlds. They had created systems so complex that no one else fully understood them. They had made it look easy. Now everyone realized how hard it had actually been. "We have food for maybe 2 more weeks," her assistant told her. "After that, people will start dying." Lisa closed her eyes. She had warned them. She had told the council that the food systems would collapse without human management. They had not listened. They never listened. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. The Galactic Medical Corps, built and trained by human doctors, fell apart without human leadership. Dr. Nick Bradley had spent 30 years teaching alien physicians how to treat diseases, how to perform surgeries, how to save lives. His students had been good, but they had always relied on him to solve the hardest problems. Now the hardest problems had no solutions. A plague broke out in the Venn system. It was a disease that human doctors had contained dozens of times before. The Venn physicians did not know how. They tried the standard treatments. They failed. The plague spread from world to world, carried by ships and travelers. The death toll reached 1 billion within the first month. By the 3rd month, it had reached 3 billion. The Venn pleaded with the council for help. The council had no help to give. Admiral Kevin Ross watched the reports from Earth's orbital station. His screens showed maps of the galaxy, with red markers indicating active conflicts, famines, and disease outbreaks. There were so many red markers that some regions were almost solid red. "They are tearing themselves apart," said Lieutenant Megan Price, his aide. She was young, barely 25. She had joined the fleet, believing she would serve the galaxy. Now she watched the galaxy burn from a safe distance. "They never understood," Kevin replied. His voice was tired. He had seen too much, served too long. "They thought we were just soldiers and workers. They did not realize we were the glue holding everything together." Megan looked at the screens. "Should we help them?" Kevin shook his head. "That is not our decision to make. The Senate will decide. Until then, we watch and wait." The council sent delegation after delegation to Earth. They came with gifts, with promises, with threats. All were turned away at the border. The human defense fleet was not large, but it was well-trained and well-equipped. No one wanted to test it. Counselor Zethar of the Vorath watched his empire crumble. The outer colonies he had stolen from the humans were worthless, without human settlers to work them. The Vorath did not know how to farm those worlds. They did not know how to maintain the infrastructure the humans had built. Within months, the colonies were abandoned. Empty monuments to Vorath greed. "This is a disaster," Zethar told his advisors. "We must convince the humans to return." "How?" asked his chief minister. "We stole their homes. We called them servants. Why would they ever forgive us?" Zethar had no answer. On Earth, the debates continued. Some humans wanted to help. They could not stand watching billions suffer when they had the power to stop it. Others refused. The galaxy had treated them like slaves for 300 years. Let them solve their own problems. Dr. Sam Fletcher had been the head of the Galactic Humanitarian Corps. He had spent his life saving strangers. Now he stood before crowds, arguing for mercy. "We are better than this," he said at a rally in Chicago. The crowd booed him. Someone threw a bottle. Security escorted him away. Senator Grace Kim gave a speech in the Senate that same week. Her words were broadcast across Earth. "I had a brother," she said. "He served as a peacekeeper on Corvani Prime for 15 years. He saved thousands of lives, and when he died in the line of duty, the Corvani did not even send a message of condolence. They did not care. He was just a human. Useful but expendable. That is how they saw all of us. Why should we care about them when they never cared about us?" The Senate chamber was silent. Many members were crying. Outside human space, the chaos continued to grow. Pirates filled the void, left by human patrols. Entire shipping lanes became death traps. Trade collapsed. Economies crashed. Governments fell. The Galactic Council, once the proud government of 47 species, fractured into 3 hostile factions. The Vorath led one faction. The Zelthrix led another. The Fen Collective led the third. They blamed each other for driving humanity away. They fought over the scraps of a civilization that was falling apart. In her small apartment on Keth Prime, Governor Lisa Chen wrote letters to Earth. She described the suffering she witnessed. She begged for help. She knew her letters probably never arrived. Outside her window, the city burned. The food had run out. People were killing each other for scraps. Lisa looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the chaos, Earth waited, safe, peaceful, untouched by the disaster it had helped create. "Please," she whispered to the empty sky. "Please come back." The stars did not answer. The galaxy had made its choice. Now it was paying the price. And humanity, for the first time, in 300 years, did not come to save them. The Galactic Council chamber was nearly empty now. Where thousands of representatives had once gathered to debate the future of civilization, only a few hundred remained. The floating platforms that had held the great powers were dark and abandoned. The ceiling that had once shown the glory of the stars now showed only war and destruction. On the central stage, the 3 faction leaders screamed at each other. Their translators struggled to keep up with the insults. "This is your fault," roared High Commander Velthorn of the Zelthrix. His scales were red with fury. The Vorath drove the humans away with their greed. Counselor Zethar of the Vorath laughed bitterly. The Zelthrix supported the vote. Every species in this chamber supported the vote. "Do not pretend you are innocent." "Enough," shouted Director Kale of the Fen Collective. She was a small creature, barely 4 feet tall, but her voice could silence a room. "We are all guilty. The question is, what we do now." But they could not agree on what to do. They had never been able to agree on anything. That had been humanity's job. The humans had always found compromises, built bridges, and solved disputes. Without them, every discussion became a battle. Captain Ryan Cole commanded the human patrol ship that guarded the border between human space and the rest of the galaxy. Every day, more ships arrived at the border. Some were warships, testing human defenses. Most were refugees. Today, a small transport ship approached the border. It was damaged, leaking atmosphere, barely holding together. Ryan ordered his crew to scan it. 23 life signs, reported his sensor officer. All Morseth. Women and children mostly. The Morseth were a gentle species. They had no military. They had no enemies. They had survived by being useful to everyone. Now they were dying like everyone else. Ryan activated his communicator. "Morseth vessel, this is Captain Cole of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are approaching restricted space. Turn back, or you will be fired upon." A voice crackled through the static. It was weak, barely a whisper. "Please. We have nowhere else to go. Our world is gone. The plague took everything. We just want to live." Ryan looked at his crew. They were young, most of them. They had never seen real suffering up close. They had only heard stories about the chaos outside human space. "Sir?" asked his first officer. "What do we do?" Ryan closed his eyes. He thought about his orders. He thought about his duty. He thought about the 23 lives on that dying ship. "Tell them to turn back," he said finally. "We cannot help them." The Morseth ship drifted away. Ryan watched it on his screens until it disappeared. He wondered how long they would survive. He tried not to think about it. On Earth, the debate had grown louder. Protests filled the streets of every major city. Some demanded that humanity return to help the galaxy. Others demanded that the borders remain closed forever. Families were torn apart by the argument. Friends became enemies. Dr. Sam Fletcher continued his campaign for mercy. He had become a controversial figure. Some called him a hero. Others called him a traitor. He received death threats every day. "Look at what we have become," he said at a speech in New York. The crowd was divided, half cheered, half booed. We used to be proud of our compassion. We used to believe that helping others made us stronger. Now we watch billions die and do nothing. Is this who we want to be? A woman in the crowd shouted back at him. "They never helped us. They stole our homes. They treated us like slaves." "Yes," Sam agreed. "They did terrible things. But does that mean we should let children starve? Does that mean we should watch plagues spread unchecked? Are we really so small that we cannot forgive?" The crowd had no answer. Secretary of Defense Paul Garrett met with the Senate Security Committee in a closed session. He presented the latest intelligence reports. The news was grim. The Corvani-Zelthrix war has expanded to 37 systems, he said. The plague in the Ven territories shows no signs of stopping. Famine conditions exist on over 200 worlds. At the current rate, we estimate that 4 billion beings will die within the next year. Senator Grace Kim studied the reports. Her face was hard to read. "And if we intervene, we could save most of them," Paul admitted. "Our medical technology is more advanced. Our logistics systems are superior. Our peacekeeping forces could end most of these conflicts within months." "But why should we?" asked Senator Robert Hayes. No relation to the ambassador. "These species voted to steal our colonies. They treated us with contempt for 300 years. Let them suffer, because suffering is not justice," said Senator Maria Santos. She was elderly, one of the oldest members of the Senate. She remembered a time before humanity joined the council. "Revenge does not make us strong. It makes us weak." "This is not revenge," Robert argued. "This is self-preservation. If we return, they will take advantage of us again. They will use us until we have nothing left to give. Then, they will discard us. History will repeat itself. Or we can change history," Maria replied. "We can return on our own terms. We can demand respect instead of begging for it. We can build something new." The debate continued for hours. No resolution was reached. Outside human space, Ambassador Thiena of the Morseth made a desperate decision. She would go to Earth herself. She would beg for help in person. She would humble herself before the humans if that was what it took. Her ship was small and unarmed. She traveled alone. When she reached the human border, Captain Ryan Cole intercepted her. "Another refugee?" he asked wearily. "No," Thena replied. "I am Ambassador Thena of the Morseth. I wish to speak with your leaders. I have a message from my people." Ryan paused. Ambassadors were different from refugees. He contacted Earth for instructions. 2 days later, Thiena stood before a committee of human senators. She was small and fragile-looking, with large eyes that reflected the light like mirrors. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "My people are dying," she said. "We never voted against you. We never supported the Vorath proposal. We tried to speak against it, but our voices were too small. No one listened to us. No one ever listens to the small ones." She paused, gathering her courage. "I know you are angry. I know you have every right to hate us. But I am not asking for my people alone. I am asking for everyone. The children who had no voice in the council's decisions, the families who never hurt anyone, the innocent who are suffering because of the sins of their leaders. Please, show the galaxy that humanity is better than this. Show them that mercy is not weakness. Show them what true strength looks like." The chamber was silent. Several senators wiped tears from their eyes. Senator Maria Santos spoke first. "Thank you, Ambassador. We will consider your words." Thiena nodded. She did not hope for much, but she had done what she could. The rest was up to humanity. 2 years had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. The galaxy was a graveyard now. Billions were dead. Empires that had lasted for millennia had crumbled into dust. The great civilization that had once spanned 1,000 stars was tearing itself apart. Counselor Zethar of the Vorath stood alone in his chambers, staring at the destruction he had helped create. His 4 hands hung limply at his sides. His gray skin had turned pale with exhaustion. He had not slept properly in months. On his screen, the latest reports played in an endless loop. Wars, famines, plagues, refugee crises. Every day brought new horrors. Every day, more lives were lost. And every day, Zethar remembered that he had started this. He had been so confident. He had truly believed that humanity was expendable. He had called them servants. He had laughed at their protests. He had voted to steal their homes without a second thought. Now he understood how wrong he had been. His advisors told him to stay strong. They said the situation would stabilize. They said the galaxy would adapt. But Zethar knew the truth. The galaxy could not survive without humanity. It never could. The humans had not been servants. They had been the heart of civilization itself. He made a decision that his advisors called insane. He would go to Earth. He would face the humans directly. He would apologize, not as a politician, but as a person who had made a terrible mistake. His ship crossed into human space without weapons, without escorts, without any protection at all. He sent a message ahead, explaining his intentions. He expected to be destroyed. He almost hoped for it. Instead, he was intercepted by a human patrol and brought to Earth in chains. Security Chief Derek Lang led him through the streets of Geneva, where the Earth Senate held its sessions. The chains were symbolic. Zethar could have broken them easily, but he accepted them without protest. He deserved far worse. The humans who lined the streets watched him with cold eyes. Some shouted insults. Some threw objects. One woman spat in his face. Zethar did not react. He walked forward, step by step, toward his judgment. The Senate chamber was packed. Every seat was filled. Every screen in the building showed the proceedings live. Across Earth, billions watched as the architect of humanity's betrayal stood before them. Senator Maria Santos served as chair of the hearing. Her voice was calm but firm. Counselor Zethar of the Vorath, you have requested to address this body. You may speak. Zethar looked around the chamber. He saw anger on every face. He saw pain. He saw the scars that his decisions had left on an entire species. He took a deep breath and began. I was wrong, he said. The translator rendered his words into English, but his emotion needed no translation. I was wrong about everything. I looked at humanity and saw tools to be used. I saw workers to be exploited. I saw a species that was too kind, too generous, too willing to help. I thought these were weaknesses. I thought they made you inferior. He paused, his 4 hands clenching into fists. I know now that I was a fool. Kindness is not weakness. Generosity is not stupidity. The willingness to help others is not something to be exploited. It is the greatest strength a species can possess, and I destroyed it. I destroyed the best thing the galaxy had ever known. The chamber was silent. Zethar continued. I do not come here to beg for help. I do not deserve help. My people do not deserve help. We took your kindness for granted. We repaid your generosity with contempt. We earned everything that has happened to us. He knelt, lowering his massive body to the floor. I come here to apologize. Not because I want something from you, but because you deserve to hear the truth. You deserve to know that at least one being in this cursed galaxy understands what we lost when we drove you away. I am sorry. I am sorry for every life that was lost because of my arrogance. I am sorry for every child that starved because I was too blind to see what I was doing. I am sorry for every family torn apart by wars that you would have prevented. Tears streamed down his gray face. If you choose to let us die, I will accept it. We deserve nothing better. But I wanted you to know, before the end, that someone understood. Someone saw the truth. Someone is grateful for everything you gave us, even if we were too stupid to appreciate it. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then a woman stood. Commander Kate Murphy. Her father had been a peacekeeper who died, protecting Vorath civilians. She walked slowly toward Zethar. "My father believed in the Council," she said. Her voice was steady, but pain flickered in her eyes. "He believed we were building something good. He died thinking he was making the galaxy better. And then you voted to steal our homes. You called us servants. You killed everything he believed in." Zethar did not look away. "I know. And I am sorry." Kate studied him for a long moment. Then she turned to face the Senate. "I spent 2 years hating this man," she said. "I dreamed about watching his world burn. I wanted him to suffer like we suffered. But standing here now, looking at him, I realize something. Hate is exhausting. It takes everything from you and gives nothing back. My father did not die for hate. He died for hope. He died believing that beings could change, that the galaxy could be better." She looked back at Zethar. "If we let you die out of spite, we become exactly what you thought we were. Tools. Servants. Beings without souls. But if we choose to help, even after everything you did to us, we prove that you were wrong. We prove that humanity is greater than your worst assumptions." The chamber erupted in noise. Some shouted in support. Others screamed in protest. Senator Santos called for order. Admiral Jack Morrison, now old and gray, rose from his seat in the gallery. The room fell quiet. Everyone knew who he was. He had commanded the withdrawal. His word carried weight. "The question is not whether they deserve our help," he said slowly. "They do not. The question is who we want to be. For 300 years, we helped the galaxy because it was right. Not because we were rewarded, not because we were respected, but because helping others is what humans do. Are we really going to abandon that now? Are we going to become small and bitter and cruel, just because they treated us badly?" He shook his head. "My granddaughter serves in the fleet. I want her to inherit a humanity worth being proud of. I want her to know that we chose mercy when revenge was easier. I want her to understand that strength is not about destroying your enemies. It is about being better than them." The debate continued for days. Across Earth, families argued around dinner tables. Friends debated in cafes and bars. The question divided the planet. Should humanity forgive the unforgivable? Should they save the ones who had betrayed them? In the end, the vote was close. 51% in favor, 49% against. Humanity would help. But this time, it would be different. This time, humanity would set the terms. Counselor Zethar wept when he heard the news. He had expected death. Instead, he had been given something he never deserved, a second chance. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. 300 ships, the largest deployment since the Great Withdrawal. At their head flew the new flagship, the Constellation, commanded by Admiral Claire Morrison. She was Jack Morrison's granddaughter, and she had inherited his determination, along with his name. Claire stood on the bridge, watching the stars ahead. 2 years ago, these same stars had seemed cold and hostile. Now they held something different. Hope. Purpose. A chance to build something better. "Admiral," said her first officer, Lieutenant Dan Perry, "we are receiving transmissions from the refugee fleets. They are asking if this is real." Claire smiled. "Tell them it is real. Tell them help is coming." Word spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The humans were back. Not as servants, not as peacekeepers begging for scraps of respect. They were back as leaders, as partners, as equals, and they had brought everything the galaxy needed. The first ships landed on Keth Prime, where Governor Lisa Chen had held on through 2 years of nightmare. She stood at the landing field, surrounded by the survivors of her world. They were thin and exhausted, but they were alive. The cargo ramps opened. Human soldiers emerged first, securing the area. Then came the doctors, the engineers, the logistics experts. Finally, The food shipments began to flow. Lisa fell to her knees. She had prayed for this day. She had dreamed of it. And now it was happening. A young human officer approached her. "Governor Chen? I am Lieutenant Sarah West. We are here to help." Lisa looked up, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you. Thank you." Sarah helped her stand. "Do not thank us yet. We have a lot of work to do." The work began immediately. Human medical teams set up hospitals to fight the plagues. Human engineers rebuilt the infrastructure that had collapsed. Human negotiators traveled to war zones, ending conflicts that had raged for years. Human ships escorted food convoys to starving worlds. But this time, humanity did not give its help freely. This time, there were conditions. Secretary General Linda Hayes announced the terms from Earth. She was the same ambassador who had walked out of the council chamber 2 years before. Now she spoke not as a junior member of a galactic government, but as the leader of a new order. "Humanity will not return to the Galactic Council," she said. Her voice was calm but firm. "That institution is dead. It was built on exploitation and contempt. We will not resurrect it. Instead, we propose something new: the Terran Compact." The Terran Compact was different from the Council in every way that mattered. Membership was not automatic. Species had to earn their place. They had to prove that they respected individual rights. They had to commit to democratic governance. They had to pledge mutual defense and mutual support. No more voting to steal each other's homes. No more treating smaller species as expendable. "We will help anyone who asks," Linda continued. "But only those who accept our terms will be our partners. Only those who prove they have changed will stand beside us. The rest can rebuild alone." Some species refused. The Zelthrix High Command declared that they would never bow to human demands. They sealed their borders and retreated into isolation. Within months, their empire collapsed. The Zelthrix people overthrew their leaders and applied for compact membership. Others accepted immediately. The Morseth were the first to sign the treaty. Ambassador Thiena cried as she pressed her seal to the document. "You saved us," she told Linda. "You saved everyone." Counselor Zethar brought the Vorath into the compact as well. He had spent the past months traveling across his territory, convincing his people to change. It was not easy. Many Vorath still believed in their own superiority, but Zethar had seen the truth with his own eyes. He had knelt before the humans and begged for forgiveness. He would spend the rest of his life earning it. The compact grew quickly. 23 species joined within the first year. Former enemies sat at the same table, bound by common laws and shared goals. Wars ended. Trade resumed. Civilization began to heal. Admiral Claire Morrison oversaw the reconstruction efforts. Her days were long and exhausting. There were always more crises, more problems, more desperate calls for help. But she never complained. This was what humanity did. This was who they were. One evening, she received a message from her grandfather. Jack Morrison was dying. His time had finally come. Claire returned to Earth to be by his side. She found him in his home, surrounded by family. He was weak, but his eyes were still sharp. He smiled when he saw her. "You did it," he whispered. "You finished what we started." Claire took his hand. "We all did it. Together." Jack nodded. "I was afraid, you know. When we left, I was afraid we were making a mistake. I was afraid we were abandoning everything we believed in." "We were angry," Claire said. "We had every right to be angry. Yes. But anger is not enough. It cannot build anything. It can only destroy." He squeezed her hand. "I am proud of you. I am proud of all of us. We showed the galaxy what humanity really is. Not servants, not tools, but the best thing that ever happened to them." He closed his eyes. His breathing slowed. And then he was gone. Claire sat with him for a long time. Outside, the sun set over a peaceful Earth. The stars began to appear. One by one. Those same stars that had once seemed so cold, now held the promise of a better future. The first full assembly of the Terran Compact met 1 year after its founding. Representatives from 23 species gathered in a great hall on Earth. The hall was different from the old council chamber. There were no floating platforms to separate the powerful from the weak. Everyone sat at the same level. Around a great circular table, Secretary General Linda Hayes addressed the assembly. "Humanity learned something important during our time away," she said. "We learned that we do not need to be needed. We do not help others because we want their approval. We do not serve because we crave their respect. We help because it is right. We serve because that is who we are." She paused, looking around at the faces before her. Former enemies, former exploiters, now partners. "If you want our friendship, you must earn it. And we will earn yours. We will prove every day that we are worthy of your trust. We will make mistakes. We will disagree. But we will never again take each other for granted. That is the foundation of this compact. That is the promise we make to each other." The assembly rose in applause. Species that had been at war for centuries cheered side by side. A new era had begun. On a distant world, a young Vorath child looked up at the stars. Her mother pointed to a small blue dot in the night sky. "That is Earth," the mother said. "That is where the humans come from." "Are they really so different from us?" the child asked. The mother thought for a long moment. Then she smiled. "Yes," she said, "they are different. They believe that helping others makes them stronger. They believe that kindness is power. They believe that any being, no matter how small, deserves respect and dignity. And when we forgot these things, they reminded us." The child looked at the blue dot for a long time. "I want to be like them," she said finally. Her mother held her close. "So do I," she whispered. "So does everyone now." The universe had spiraled into chaos without humanity. Now, with humanity leading the way, it had found its path back to the stars. The darkness was not gone. There would always be challenges ahead. But for the first time in a very long time, the galaxy faced its future with hope. And that, more than anything, was humanity's greatest gift.